Hello everyone, it's Oliver Harper here, and I'm back with Rob Hill for another commentary. And with it being December, it's time for some Star Wars. Last year we covered A New Hope, and this time, of course, it's The Empire Strikes Back. So Rob, are you a big fan of Empire, like most people?
Of course, yeah. I'm Mr. Star Wars. So I'm not of the ilk that sees it as the pinnacle of the series, though. So we might yet have some controversies and differences of opinion.
I presume you're a New Hope fan, aren't you?
Yes.
That's your bag, baby,
Yeah.
as it were. Okay, well, we are watching the most common version of Empire Strikes Back, which is the one you can find on Disney+. So the one with all the added CGI nonsense. Thankfully, Empire didn't receive too many added bits back in 1997. So if you wish to sync up this commentary with your own copy of the film on Blu-ray or an NTSC DVD, then put the timestamp to 0 and press play now. I must have seen this originally. Obviously, I was born in '82, so this film was already 2 years old when I was born. But it must have been the ITV movie premiere back on Christmas Day of 1988. Which apparently, after doing a quick search, it coincided with the BBC One premiere of Back to the Future.
Oh.
So many people were very annoyed because they clashed. So you have to set your VCR on one, and then you can't record both.
Weirdly, I have a really clear memory of recording Back to the Future in that screening. If that's the first time it was on, I remember it was the first time it was on TV, and I recorded it on a Scotch VHS tape, and then watched it incessantly for years. So, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I don't know how I wasn't recording Empire Strikes Back instead.
That's mental. So Empire, like double the budget. Everything's far more polished in this movie, far more confidently made, and weirdly, because now it is like regarded as the best Star Wars film. When you see any sort of list online, where as you've encountered before, Rob, with other lists of movies or top 10 things, they're often copy and pasted from someone else. But at the time, this movie wasn't like glowingly received by all critics. Famously, Cine Fantastic didn't particularly like it. And many critics were confused by the structure of the film, as it didn't have an ending. It was a continuing saga, and this was very radical for the time, where most sequels, everyone had predicted, this was obviously before it's called Empire Strikes Back, it was called Star Wars 2, that it would just basically be a rehash of the first one, like most sequels were. And if you saw throughout the 80s, most kind of sequels did do a rinse and repeat. Rocky was kind of, common of that, and the horror films are very much that. Godfather 2, I wouldn't have seen that as a repeat of the first one. That
was the exception to the rule, though, wasn't it, really? Or one of the exceptions to the rule.
Because it was dealing with different, back and forth between the past and the present.
Like this, it was arguably made for creative reasons rather than purely financial reasons, you could say, as well.
Well, yeah, in terms of finance, this was funded by George Lucas out of some of his own money from the performance of Star Wars. He was absolutely loaded from that, and also obviously down to the merchandise deals. He took a loan out from the bank to help finance the film, and obviously he had problems with the bank pulling some of the funding. Had to find funding from somewhere else. He had put so much of his own cash into it. It was a huge risk, but obviously it paid off, and he was then allowed to be independent from Hollywood.
Yeah, I think it was 3 months, I believe. I remember reading in the book about Star Wars. There's a great book that's kind of like the biography of Star Wars. And I think they say in that it was 3 months before he'd made all of his money back and paid off the loan.
And gave his staff bonuses.
Yeah, big bonus.
Like close to $5 million he paid out. So he's a generous guy, isn't he?
Share between them, yeah, when he wants to be. There are people who might say otherwise, including the chap who plays Boba Fett, or the voice of Boba Fett. His name I've forgotten now.
I always thought he looked a bit like Frank Oz,
Yes, he does a bit, doesn't he? Yeah.
Apparently he was never had a casting call. It was just that he apparently could fit in the suit or something.
Do you mean Jeremy Bulloch, or the guy who does his
Jeremy
voice?
Bulloch, who fit into the suit, I mean, this bit as a kid, seeing this for the first time, I was kind of gave me a bit of a shock. It was straight away, Luke is being taken out.
Yeah, and not as history records incorrectly, because Mark Hamill had injured his face, and yeah, he's got this scar, hasn't he, that due to a car crash between Star Wars and Empire. But it was already written into the story, apparently, this scene, because Lucas felt that without anyone, well, a writer probably told Lucas that without the Empire in the picture yet, there's no tension. So they needed a way to create a bit of tension and excitement before the Empire finds them.
Yeah, because I always thought it was just put in because he had the accident and had to explain why his face looks slightly different.
I never noticed as a kid. I never really... I mean, he does look different, but he looks a lot older as well, and he plays the character much older, so it just... I don't know, it always never stood out to me.
I also thought his face didn't... He looked a bit more puffy around the face, and his hair wasn't as blonde anymore, was it? His performance is very different to A New Hope. He's very... as you say, he plays a lot older, and he's not as kind of wide-eyed, kind of like optimistic about everything. He's very much cool and calm.
Bruce Bower.
Well, the guy from 40 Towers who wants a Waldorf salad.
The guy from Waldorf Salad. And Superman he's in as well.
Yeah, he's in the extended cut, and he's in The Omen.
Yes, yep. And he's in something else playing a general as well, but I can never remember what it is. Oh, Octopussy, that's it. Yeah, he's the general in Octopussy right at the end when Bond's trying to defuse the bomb in the circus.
Yes,
he's the general that's present for that, and he's the colonel in Full Metal Jacket. So if you need an American military figure and you're shooting in the UK, hire that guy.
Sadly, he's no longer with us.
Wow.
There's the I do love they still got the badges that look like strepsils, a pack of strepsils they use to sort of signal what their rank is.
And this is all very Irvin Kershner, all this stuff, isn't it? It was his job, I think, basically to bring in some character stuff and some drama between everybody, while Lucas focused on the visual effects. And this is something that you just couldn't have imagined in A New Hope, a scene like this.
Now, this is a brilliant scene where she goes, "I'd rather kiss a Wookiee." He goes, "He could use a good kiss." There's it's because Kershner said he couldn't put in gags, but he had to throw in. He wanted kind of funny moments, and it works wonderfully in this. And this the like Harrison's just like come alive in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's
yeah. And their relationship as well. I mean, it's the only time their relationship gets any attention in the whole series, isn't it? Really, it's the only time that any building work is actually done. And apparently it was Kershner who wanted to lose a lot of the jokes as well. I hadn't realised until doing a bit of research recently that Lucas came into it originally with very much the same sort of tone in mind as A New Hope, and Kershner was like, no, this is the middle act in the story. It's got to be darker. It's got to be more serious. It's got to be more mature and grown up.
Well, yeah, Lawrence Kasdan, who would rewrite the script, said this is like, where everything goes, disastrously wrong for the heroes. It's the middle act. The middle act's always the most exciting.
Yeah, that's when the hero needs to be at their lowest ebb.
That goes in step with the critics who were confused by the structure. Like, it felt like this will just be a start, middle, and end sequel, and not let's kind of leave it open for the story to continue in such a very clear, straightforward manner, not be some sort of like, oh, there could be one, another sequel. But
it's strange that critics reacted against that. I mean,
I'd imagine fans were as well, because they'd be like, oh, we've got to wait now, got to wait and find out. We've got 3 years, we've got to wait.
Exactly, and it's kind of. I never minded the lack of. I saw this out of order, for one thing, because
yes, you did. Yeah,
it was. I want to say I'm almost certain that I saw Star Wars for the first time. The first time it was shown on British TV, which was I think winter of '82, and then I saw Return of the Jedi when it came out in theatres. But I really clearly remember when we first got a video recorder going into a VHS store and seeing Empire there and just losing my mind because it's the only Star Wars movie I hadn't seen. And you don't remember what it's like, or you don't know what it's like nowadays, do you? But back at the time, this was several years after Empire had come out, And of course, there's no way it's not on TV. It's not on video. It's not there's no way to see the movie at all when you're a kid. So I saw that. So I think that was pretty much, it must have been as soon as it came out on video, looking at the timelines involved. So I never had this, oh, I don't know what happens. The tension of not knowing how it ends was never a part of the movie for me. But the tone being so downbeat was something that I really didn't like, really didn't enjoy. I loved the film, obviously, but I never liked it or watched it as much as even Return of the Jedi, just because it's kind of dark and serious and a bit miserable, which, it's not a space adventure in the same way that the first film was.
When you saw this in '97 when they did the new bits, did you kind of think this was a somewhat of a acceptable addition with the snow monster, or I can't remember its name now?
It's all right. It's called a Wampa.
A Wampa.
But if you're George Lucas, you call it a snow monster, and if you're Irving Kershner, you call it an ice beast. Because for some reason, none of these old men involved in these movies can actually use the terms that they invented themselves. So George Lucas always calls it a laser sword. It's like he realises how silly some of these words are, and so won't actually say them. I do like it. This is some excellent stuff. I mean, not this shot, but the stop motion for these tauntauns is fantastic, isn't it?
They do really hold up, don't they? It's interesting seeing the original, kind of like, obviously the despecialized versions, where you see some sort of raggedy edges they've kind of cleaned up. Because this one, when they did the special editions in '97, Empire didn't receive that much of a kind of an assault.
It was by far the least offensive of events. Yeah,
it sort of demonstrated that a lot of what Lucas wanted is in the film, and they had really kind of polished up. By that point, the visual effects had improved considerably in terms of the matte lines and stuff. But there was matte lines because you're dealing with snow and things like that. So the speeders had the wobbly matte lines, which they removed, and some transparencies. But there's still, even in the latest kind of the 4K version, you can still see there's transparencies on the TIE Fighters and Millennium Falcons. So they didn't remove everything. And I was like, they take away some of the stuff, they improve some of the stuff, but there's other glaring things you spot straight away and go, why didn't they spot that?
I had this on the other day when I just listened to the commentary. I haven't heard the commentary in years. And the bit that I always remember, and like I said before, I only watched the Harmy despecialized versions of these movies. So I'm quite familiar with the old school effects. And I don't think there's really much wrong with the Hoth battle scene, the rotoing or the the matte lines around the ships. It really aren't that bad at all, to be honest. What always stood out to me more is the approach to Cloud City later on to Bespin, when you're like looking out of the cockpit of the Falcon at the two ships shadowing them in. That always the matte lines there always looked a lot more obvious to me. And watching the new one back with, I say the new one, the 30-year-old one now, whatever it is, they've really ballsed that up. I think the trim, the edge of the framework of the Millennium Falcon's cockpit, that it's just too clean. The edge there's too clean. They've had to like sort of slice into it ever so slightly to get rid of the matte lines, and it just doesn't look quite right to me.
It always, for me, it's always the asteroid field. It's still now. There's loads of travelling mats everywhere.
Oh, really? I never notice it in that.
A lot of that can be just down to the settings of one's TV or the transfer, where you've got the brightness, and the black levels, how it's been exposed. Because a lot of the time, if it's done correctly, you won't see that stuff. It's very kind of fine. Slight adjustments can improve something.
And here's the best paid actor in the movie.
You got a tiny percentage for this.
A quarter of a point, yeah.
Quarter of a point, yeah.
It's I remember trying to figure out what that actually meant in real terms, and I think I came to the conclusion it was about $3 million in then money. Obviously, bearing in mind that's a quarter of a point of the gross after it's been diddled down anyway, not the net before. And over the years, that will have, that will have carried on accruing, won't it? Like it did for his first movie, because A New Hope, they reckon he's probably made in modern money terms the better part of 100 million from over the 45, 50 years, whatever it is, since it was released.
Crikey!
And Mark Hamill is rumored to have been paid, I think it's 650 grand for this one. And Harrison Ford 500 grand for this. So whichever way you look at it, that little bit there, it was the best paid performance we're going to see today.
It's always kind of like it's just the insides of the what are they called again?
Tauntaun.
Was it bean sprouts and stuff?
Yeah, or a hopping snow camel, I think is probably what George calls them. Something like that. Kirshner says in the commentary, very irrelevant and unimportant and uninteresting detail this, but Kirshner says in the commentary that it refers to this Tauntaun as a female. So it's canon that this is a female Tauntaun.
Oh. And it still smells bad on the outside. The credited writers on this, Lawrence Kasdan, who did work on Raiders of the Lost Ark. Leah Brackett is credited, who died in 1978 of cancer. And I think Lucas knew she was unwell when he asked her to kind of write a script based on his draft, or like notes and stuff. What he wanted to see in Star Wars 2. And she had come up with some ideas that Luke would meet his sister, so Leia wasn't his sister, and Han Solo would, I believe, seek the help of his stepfather or his father, which would turn out to be Lando, and that sort of story structure. And Yoda was in it, but he wasn't called Yoda. As a couple of other sort of things. Basically, Lucas wasn't happy with the end results, but she's still credited because the story beats of the script are in this movie. So kind of structurally, it's kind of there in places. So, but it was interesting that Lucas would seek out kind of a sort of famous kind of sci-fi.
Yeah, he was a big fan of hers, wasn't he? She's a sci-fi author, wasn't she? He was a big fan, and it was very wise, frankly.
When Lucas had people around him, we were like, he was listening to them.
Yes. Well, this is the ultimate example of that, isn't it? I mean, this is the Star Wars movie that most people generally consider the best, and it's also the one that he had the least involvement in. Richard Marquand for Return of the Jedi really was, I think, just kind of over his shoulder most of the time. And you can tell because the tone is so similar to the first, and it's got George Lucas written all over it, isn't it? Return of the Jedi, whereas this just doesn't. And it's funny when he introduces himself at the start of the commentary, he says, "I'm the executive producer and I developed the story." And technically, yeah, they're your only credits technically on this movie. I mean, obviously, he's far more important than that suggests, but that could be someone who did a couple of days' work, being credited with those roles.
There was an interesting bit of trivia that Lucas was still, also the financing was stressing him out, and but he wasn't happy with how things were being edited and stuff with Kirshner. He still had these kind of, arguments about where this film was going, and because Kirshner was kind of self-aware that because of the fast pace of Star Wars, how it was edited, he wasn't going to have shots linger on for too long. So he was aware of that. That's kind of interesting because as we discussed with the previous commentary, I think most people kind of know that Star Wars kind of famously is saved by the edit. Because if it was played out as original kind of work print of Star Wars, it's very just cutting with the rhythm of people talking, and it's very kind of sluggish in terms of its pacing. Where what we saw theatrically is far more dynamic with it's really quick editing, and they'll be using like tail ends of shots to put in, so just kind of scrapping around trying to find stuff to make it work. Where Empire, it seems on what you see is like everything shot is just so perfectly kind of figured out already, and how it's edited is just like it's not. I think it's night and day in terms of the quality.
It's a different approach, isn't it? I don't want to say it's better, but it's a very different methodology being employed by Kirshner. And he's talked about it quite a lot over the years, about how worried he was about finding the rhythm. He talks a lot about rhythm, which is always encouraging, I think, for a director, and especially a director with an eye on editing. Rhythm is so important. And he's talked a lot about how like he's shooting this stuff, but he doesn't know whether all these rhythms are going to match up when it comes to editing. He doesn't know. He's kind of working in the dark, and he's really pleased with the result, and he's happy with it. But ultimately, he had no idea what he was doing. He said at the time.
This is where the camera's put. Everything's just so much more dynamic.
And the way they cut, you mentioned this before we came on, the way they cut back and forth between the two concurrent storylines later on, the two narratives later on, is done as perfectly as you could.
Yeah, Paul Hirsch was handling this. So we did edit Star Wars with, I think, 2 other people, like George's wife and stuff. Well, see, they're John Williams introducing the Imperial March, which is one of the greatest John Williams kind of theme tunes that it makes a perfect remixing, doesn't it?
It's just brilliant. Yes, it's one of the it's very difficult. I used to DJ a bit as a student, and it's very difficult when you've got something with like a 4-beat bar structure. Trying to mix that with like a classical music or a score is almost impossible. But this is just perfect. You can drop it into anything.
They do it really well in the TV show Spaced, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
And in The Simpsons as well, there's a great moment of its use.
And we've got the Superstar Destroyer.
Yes.
I think it was called the Executor. I think they called
it. Something like that, which is Darth Vader's flagship, technically, I think, isn't it? It's what it's meant to be. But I love its introduction with the shadow falling across the Star Destroyer as well. It's like, what on earth could be even bigger than this?
It's just literally like a dagger, isn't it? This
and kind of black as well.
It's the end of a spear, isn't it? Sort of thing. It's got blue to it. I think originally it was supposed to be a Star Destroyer just blue, but then they just kind of redesigned the whole thing and went crazy with it. Now he's from Grange Hill, isn't he?
Mr. Bronson.
Yeah.
This was unbelievable. I suppose Grange Hill was a bit before your time, but Grange. I had older brothers and sisters, so Grange Hill was a feature of life, and it was always hilarious to me that Mr. Bronson was in Empire Strikes Back.
All the kids must have loved him as soon as he.
Yeah, can you imagine?
What was it like to be with Darth Vader?
I love this as well. This is the only time, or was the only time, a full-scale Millennium Falcon was ever built. And I want to say it was just like an aircraft hangar in Wales, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. I don't think it was like a.
Did they rebuild it for Force Awakens?
Well, if you look at like Star Wars trivia now, it still says this is the only time that a Millennium Falcon was built. But there was one built for Force Awakens, because I happened to visit Pinewood the week after they took it apart, and I was absolutely furious about it. But everyone was buzzing about how there'd been a Millennium Falcon. It's just like a bit of an old car park at the top of the area there, and it's just, oh man, can you imagine?
It would have been pretty spectacular.
I did see an X-wing though, full-size X-wing, because they were shooting at the time. They were shooting Rogue One, or just starting on Rogue One or something.
There's a fleet of Star Destroyers coming out of hyperspace in Sector 4.
I love these costumes as well. Proper, still 70s brown.
Oh yeah, it's still the carryover, isn't it? Really. Look at that! Amazing miniatures.
I wonder if this was in play during A New Hope, or if we just didn't see it because we're at the Death Star. These are the questions I've asked myself for 40-odd years now.
I've always kind of, as a kid, puzzled by Vader's, his little spot where he chills out. It's like this kind of egg-shaped thing.
The Vader egg.
That Kinder egg, and he sort of pulls apart, and he's obviously in there to sort of... Because you see later on, the back of his head, you're like, he looks all burnt and fucked up. And
it's funny, that's another thing that we probably don't remember why they had to do that now. Apparently that was a deliberate move to establish that Vader underneath was not a robot. He was kind of humanoid, because we didn't know at the time. I can remember not being clear at all on whether the stormtroopers were people in costumes or robots.
I love that bit there. He goes, "Our Lord Vader, it's come at light speed," and just gets strangled. He would carry over to Jedi, wouldn't they? They would keep him the Admiral.
Yeah, was it Viet or something? Yeah.
Yeah, Admiral Viet, yeah. Oh, who's the actor who was in Deep Rising?
Oh, oh, Jesus Christ, just died. Love him. Died a couple of years ago.
I
Oh
know.
my God.
It's Carrie Fisher's, one of Carrie Fisher's close friends. He had Treat Williams. Now he had I think he's supposed to cameo in this, but I think it's either one of these guys or somewhere else. But they did shoot stuff with him, but didn't make it into the final cut.
Oh, I never heard that. I think I probably talked about this in the Star Wars commentary, but another one of her great friends was Griffin Dunn, the guy from American Werewolf in London who gets killed early doors, and he's written a book about their childhood together, basically, and it's there are a few fairly salacious revelations in it, including that he claims that he took her virginity because she wanted him to, which you can kind of believe, but who knows.
I was also, as a kid, like, oh my god, there's another C-3PO android, but it's like all white in the background. You do see one in A New Hope, don't you, at the beginning? It does walk past one, right?
Yeah, oh, that's true, yeah, on the Tantive, there's one, isn't there, yeah.
Also, that line delivery, our first catch of the day, was always a... Did you take two of that?
It's like maximum English.
Oh no, it's a bit Stilton cheese. Do it again.
All the bad guys have to be English, all the good guys have to be American.
Well, that's what Kirshner tried to sort of make it clear. Like, we get the heroes who all got American accents, and the bad guys are English.
But then
British.
he says in the commentary, he starts talking about Bruce Bower, and he said, "Oh, that was the exception." I mean, does he think Bruce Bower's English? Because I think he's Canadian, actually, technically. So, well, I say technically. And yeah, so to the non-North American's ear, Canadian and American accents can sound very, very similar. But obviously to Kirsch, he Canadian and English accents sound very, very similar.
Now, this originally was second unit people, because before I was recording this, there's a lot of crossover with Superman and Alien. Brian Johnson would come on, do miniatures like the speeders he'd build, because you had to use some of the British crew because of union rules, because you film using Elstree for the interior stuff. And Brian has come off from Alien, and then you had John Barry, the production designer on Superman, who would come onto second unit on this, but he would die, I think, of a massive heart attack. I think before they really started filming stuff. He's still credited in the film, so he must have done a couple of little bits before they'd had to replace him. And then Peter McDonald, the camera operator of Superman, will come and do second unit on this. So Peter would then do second unit for most action movies and direct Rambo 3 and stuff. And Norman Reynolds would do production design on this, who had worked on Superman. So there was a kind of because Gary Kurtz, I think, was kind of quite friendly with Ilya Solkind and Richard Donner, right. So he would be on the set of Superman and going back and forth. So obviously grabbing crew.
When did Gary Kurtz fall out with George Lucas?
Kind of after this.
After this,
I think.
Was it?
I think it was Development of Jedi, because he was, I think, there's one of those kind of TV shows, behind the scenes things, a bit salacious, very focused much on drama, filmed the last couple of years. They did one on Empire Strikes Back, and I suppose he's got Marcia Lucas being interviewed about Star Wars and stuff, and she had never been interviewed for a long time.
I've never seen her speaking before.
Yeah, it's really good. But I think he was concerned about Jedi repeating itself, because it's bringing back the Death Star and stuff, and that falls in line with what people predicted what sequels would be like. You kind of, and it was like that with Jedi, right? I felt like, they're just repeating the end bit again, which is still an amazing sequence in Jedi.
It's not a repeat; it's a rhyme.
Oh, we go. It's a rhyme, yeah. But you know what I mean, right? It's such a heart pumping kind of adrenaline fueled ending to Jedi, but it was a bit repetitive. And I think there was arguments between Lucas and Kurtz about the financing of this. He was letting Irvin Kushner spend too much money, and money plays a big part in their fallout, I think, and the creativity of stuff. But a lot of people liked, Gary Kurtz.
Yeah, he seems dead cool in interviews and stuff. I love. I can't remember which documentary it's in, but someone asks him. I think it's Gary Kurtz asks him what he makes of the special editions, and he just looks really awkward. And then there's a really awkward pause, and he just says, "I think they were a mistake." Yeah.
Well, I think Kurtz has said Lucas surrounded himself with too many people that were basically yes men.
Of course, yeah. Of course.
No one telling him to say, you're going too far, or you should maybe change this or that. Every time there was a new Star Wars game that came out, each one over the years got better and better with the Hoth battle. So you got to control the speeder and go around the legs and take him out. So the Super Nintendo, Super Empire Strikes Back was really good. And then the N64 with Shadow of the Empire, the best level was the Hoth level.
I remember even a Rogue Squadron on the GameCube. I got really into, and the best bit there was the Hoth business.
Even I played Star Wars Battlefront, this first-person shooter. When it's a Hoth level, everyone's like, yes, because it's everyone just loves to recreate this sequence.
They do, don't they? And I wonder how much of that is the AT-ATs, because they're really the only cool thing. I suppose it's a completely different environment as well, one we haven't seen in Star Wars, and one that's visually interesting. But I remember get one birthday getting these big, they look like radar dishes that the rebels are using as they're artillery.
I had a miniature of that as a kid.
I got that was one of the toys that I got, and I distinctly remember thinking, what the fuck? It was just rubbish.
I've got a satellite dish.
It just didn't do anything. I didn't even recognise it from the movie. I probably hadn't seen the movie at that point. But then you've got the AT-ATs, which are, along with the Millennium Falcon, the two greatest things ever created for cinema, in my opinion.
And that sort of got everyone's, annoyed when they popped up in Rogue One.
Oh, they can fuck off. Christ alive. Oh, we can't reuse them. That's fan service. The Empire don't completely change their entire fleet of vehicles with every movie just so that fans don't get a repeat of something. But I've still got the original toy. My original toy AT-AT is on the window ledge in the living room. So I think it's the only Star Wars toy that I've got.
Oh, I mistakenly sold all mine at a car boot.
Yeah, my mum ditched all mine. I say it's my original. It's one I bought in university off someone who's...
Every time you mention that, it always reminds me of Shaun the Dead, where his dad goes, Bill Nye, he's like, I got your toys, I threw them in a skip. He's like, oh, he's actively annoyed.
The number of times I've told my mum what they'd have been worth by now.
But did you play the original Star Wars arcade when it came out? The one, the vector graphics thing?
I remember having a go on it, but I didn't... There wasn't an arcade anywhere I lived. The only time I ever saw arcade machines was when the fair came by.
Yeah.
And
yes.
if you're not particularly good at gaming like me and you don't know the games anyway, it was just an act. You just put your money in and then died, and then that was it. So I never really played games like that.
I do love that shot a minute ago where you've got the wide, where everyone's running away from the AT-ATs,
I love this one too. Any wide shot with AT-ATs in is fucking awesome.
There was, as a kid, it's always confused. Is it AT-ATs or some people call it AT-ATs?
Well, this is a generational divide. I heard a comedian make a joke about this last year or something. He referred to them as AT-ATs, unless you're a millennial, in which case they're AT-ATs, I know. So apparently nowadays they're more likely to be called AT-ATs. But no one used the term AT-AT before the year 2000. It just didn't happen.
It just didn't happen.
I refuse to accept it.
I love how the AT-AT sort of just leans to the side to take out one little speeder. It's like, fuck you. Got 50G achievement points there. Ooh, I love the bit when it cuts inside the cockpit and he sees the explosion. You get that sort of bit of pink and purple go.
Yeah.
Great stuff. There was isn't there deleted scenes? Some of the Wampers would break in.
Oh yes, there was a. I don't know if it was deleted or if they didn't shoot it or what, but yeah,
They
it
did
was,
shoot it. It's just deleted. I think because it looks crap, because in the original cut, when it moves, it's just literally just being pushed by people. Cause it's so.
Yeah.
We see the behind the scenes where Luke's being dragged away, and then the guy in the suit just goes, and just falls over.
Well, he was on stilts, wasn't he? And he was like 7 feet tall on stilts with a 3-foot headdress on his head. It was apparently an absolute nightmare for him. But yeah, I think there was originally meant to be more of the. I think actually the scenes they've added of the Wampa were meant to be a part of the movie anyway, and were intended to be in there. But yeah, they weren't happy with the costume, were they? With the.
That was one of the things where, out of all, because that's what they put in with the Wampa for the special editions, because it was a live action sequence, it wasn't CG. It kind of blends well with the other photography. They've done a really good job with the lighting and the grading on that. But everything else, you see it and it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Especially when they fly to Bespin and they land on the docking bay, whatever.
Yeah, but like we've said though, it's worth pointing out nothing in this movie is as bad as in the other two in terms of standing out. And the fucking Dayglow Muppets in Jabba's palace boggle the mind. What the hell was going on there?
Yeah, let's see his phlegm inside his mouth and his, God. Oh, gives me shivers thinking about that sequence. And you also got to look out for Carrie Fisher's coke finger.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that as well.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, there's something else to look out for as well for Carrie Fisher later on when she's still off her head from the night before. It's quite a famous. Is it the scene? I think it's the scene when they're arriving at Bespin.
Well, because they were hanging out with Eric Idle, I think, the Monty Python bunch, and getting really completely pissed the night before, and turned up buzzing,
because he'd been shooting Life of Brian in Tunisia, and came back, and he and Carrie Fisher were friends, and he brought back a load of booze that was called Tunisian table cleaner, is what he called it, and yeah, he had a big party because she was staying in his house.
Yes.
Because he was away shooting Life of Brian and she was in London shooting this. So she stayed in his house. He came back one night with a crate of Tunisian table cleaner and the Rolling Stones. And apparently it all got a bit out of hand.
Well, Lucas was saying, because when they shot Star Wars, they had no idea what the film was about. They were all confused. And so they come Empire, they knew how this was going to play out, where they were going, what the world was. And everyone was far more enthusiastic. And you can kind of tell in their performances. They're just fully into it. Even though Carrie Fisher was sort of battling kind of bad drug habit and anxiety, I think she had a bit of a stressful time. And Mark Hamill would have a bit of a stressful time because he's separated from the other actors a lot of the time for Dagobah and stuff
and
like that.
And he hated the physical stuff as well, didn't he? I think he's a bit, or he was at this time anyway, maybe a little bit not delicate, but. He's always talking about terrible injuries he suffered during, and it's
He did do a lot of his own stunts though.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. But
apart from the flipping out of the window when he gets pulled out by the in Bespin City.
Yeah,
I just love that shot. When Millennium Falcon escapes and goes, there you go. The camera angle change. It spins around and past the Star Destroyers. You see the shift from the first Star Wars film with their visual effects shots, which were just kind of flying to a planet or flying away, flying over camera, flying past camera. The Millennium Falcon's spinning around, dodging stuff. It's just
much more ambitious. Here's a question for you, actually. Yeah, are there any action scene shots in this that are completely new? They actually added shots into the conclusion of A New Hope, didn't they? That weren't there in the first place.
Oh yeah, for the Death Star battle. Yeah.
Are there shots in the Battle of Hoth? In particular, or the asteroid. Do you know if there are completely new shots in there, or were they just cleaned up?
No, this is cleaned up. Some of the matte lines and some of the travelling mattes, with some things where they overlaid the optical and you get transparency effect.
Yeah,
they've cleaned up some of those. As I mentioned earlier, some are still present. So I'm because they did they brought Return of the Jedi out on DVD for the first time, and they fucked up the lightsabers in Jedi. They weren't graded properly.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's really weird. It's like, how did no one QC this? Or they do it on purpose so they can re-release it. Oh, we fixed the previous one now. You can buy this new shiny one. It's got an extra Jawa in the background or something.
Oh, look out for the shoe has gone, has it? I think the shoe went quite early.
The shoe, yeah. But some of these are potatoes, aren't they?
There is still a potato, definitely.
That's probably a spud there.
Almost remember. Is that, no, it's a shot really similar to that one. If it's not that one, I think there's a bigger. I think there's like a big asteroid in the foreground. But the shoe was apparently added by I don't know if this is true, but apparently added by a disgruntled VFX guy because he was just sick of Lucas kept on telling him, no, that asteroid's got to move slightly differently, and he was convinced Lucas was just making it up and didn't notice the changes he was making, which is a long-standing thing in visual effects, actually. There's a lot of stories around this. So instead of tweaking it further, he just changed it for a shoe, and Lucas didn't even notice.
Amazing.
But that was removed very early on, I think, like right back in the day. But the potato, at least one potato, was left in.
There must be in the background more spuds. You just can't see them.
You can't even really tell it's a potato, to be honest.
Potatoes do look like asteroids anyway.
Yeah, and it's tiny and it's moving and. So it's another time where just at the edge where there would have been matte lines just looks a bit too clean now. It looks like a set with something behind it.
But also it still has a little bit that sort of blue screen spill they haven't removed,
Yeah.
But they've sharpened it,
Keep the camera pointing backwards into the cockpit. That's my happy place in the Millennium Falcon cockpit. But so many of my favourite scenes are just in the Falcon cockpit, just talking about nothing in particular.
Yeah, definitely. I do like how, even though it was obviously when R2D2 talks, the computer translates what he's saying, so Luke can understand him. But it's not in English; it's their own alien language, because you can't read what comes out on the computer in red text.
I've never thought about that before. Apparently, it was Kirshner doing all the vocalizations on set for R2, which had everyone in stitches. He's an unintentionally hilarious guy, Irving Kirshner. I think sometimes. There's
a great behind the scenes thing where they're in Norway filming, and Mark Hamill is always very amusing, and he's doing something, and then everyone's laughing, and Kirsch goes to camera, "Who could be laughing in this weather?"
I was trying to think who his voice reminds me of, and it's and I clicked. It's David Lynch's character in Twin Peaks.
Oh, yeah.
He speaks just like that FBI guy, but
like he's deaf. It just shouts everything.
Yeah, but exactly. Yeah, it's like a monotone shout, but with a real like a typical Jewish lilt to it, which makes me think of Gilbert Gottfried. So he's kind of like he's a cross between those two voices. That's exactly what he sounds like.
Now we see Yoda, which was designed by Stuart Freeborn, one of the best makeup and creature guys that people seem to forget about. I mean, they just often remember just as the creator of Yoda, and his face was, he inspired his own look to put into Yoda. And I think since then, without Stuart Freeborn's involvement, Yoda has never looked good as a puppet. I think they got some of it right in The Last Jedi. There's some shots where he's like, that's really good. Especially when you see Yoda burn the tree, and Luke's like, the sacred texts, and then Yoda starts cracking up, and it's just like, that's so good, that little bit. But it's never looked good. I mean, we saw the puppet of Yoda in Phantom Menace. It was awful. It just didn't have the articulation anymore. It just felt like too stiff, and like Frank Oz just couldn't get enough out of it.
I wonder how much of it is down to it being he's too clean as well in all the subsequent movies, and of course that makes sense because he's not living on a in a muddy hole in the other movies. But he's losing that kind of dishevelled air. You lose a lot of him with it.
Stuart Freeborn was the makeup guy for all of the Superman films, and did all Chris Reeve's makeup, and they stayed good friends for a number of years.
That was shot in Lucas's. In fact, that little sequence was directed by Lucas, wasn't it?
We fired him out the thing.
Yeah, and it's all shot in Lucas's pool, I think, his swimming pool, on a weekend with him behind the camera. Yeah, Yoda's. I love Yoda, but there's no getting away from the fact that he's kind of responsible for the CGI revolution in my mind, because it was Lucas founded what would become Pixar immediately after making this movie, and a big part of his motivation was that he really wanted to be able to create CGI characters because he was so frustrated with the puppet of Yoda. So, like, he literally went out and hired a couple of engineers from MIT or somewhere like that, and put them to work. And it was the graphics division or something it was called at the time, and they developed what would become what is it? Is it RenderMan, the software that Pixar and everything is? So, and it grew into Pixar and was then sold as the George Lucas digital division to Steve Jobs.
That's right, yeah, because I was thinking, what was Steve Jobs' involvement? It was sold to him, wasn't it? Then it was purchased by Disney, right? So
yeah,
because I knew that Steve Jobs had, was on the board of members of Disney, I think, for a long time, because he had that Pixar involvement.
I think it was like 1986 or something like that. Lucas sold it, but it was like literally everything that defined and drove the CG revolution kind of grew out of Lucas's decision to hire those two guys and set up a digital division.
I'm assuming things like, the guys at that division who saw Tron were probably like, wow, we can do even more now. You know what I mean? Like, or even like the stuff they did on Wrath of Khan with the Genesis project, where you see the planet, which is kind of designed to look somewhat photorealistic compared to Tron, which is like a video game.
Yeah, no, it was the revenue from Empire that paid for all that.
Yeah. He got everyone to move, didn't they, out of the sort of ratty old sound stage of where they're doing effects on Star Wars, the first one, and move out to a proper new facility.
His ranch in
I
can't remember what it's called now.
Is it Marin County?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. I think it was called Lucas something, wasn't it? Before
yeah, so I think the road's called Lucas Road, just completely coincidentally. The road.
They go, you've got to buy it. I know. I was always like, okay, when Luke pulls out his dinner, what is he eating? Because I always try to look at what he's got. Sometimes it's a bit like a fish finger in there. There's like peanuts or something, but because you've got to create alien food that's from another world, right? So I always like that. These little things fascinate, like a lamp there that can't look like a lamp that's from Earth. It's got to look alien. So all that sort of cool stuff, you got to think of just to create a simple thing that's kind of like we use. It's got to be different somewhere else.
But what was I've forgotten now. What was Roger Christian's role on the first Star Wars? Was he? It was designing. It wasn't. Was it anything to do with set design and props and so on? I can't remember. It's always amused me that he's obviously his eye for detail. I mean, every aspect of the detail of these movies is incredible. But then when he made his own sci-fi movie a few years later, it's really noticeably stuffed with just like everyday items that are.
I don't think he's on this one. He's not an Empire. I think he came in. Maybe he was on A New Hope. Then didn't do Empire.
He was on A New Hope.
I mean, he didn't do Empire then. Have I spelt his name? Is it Christian with a K?
With a C.
Oh, okay.
Roger Christian. I can't remember. It was maybe it was the Swords or.
No, he's not on Empire. That's weird.
Yeah, it must just have been A New Hope.
Hey, get out of there! No! Hey, you could have broken this.
some people are complaining, they're just like throwing a Muppet into the movie, into Star Wars, but I never found that a problem because he's so well animated, puppeteered by Frank Oz, and the emotions all come through, and it just gets, especially with the more serious moments where Luke is debating about leaving and going to Bespin City, where Yoda's very much like, against it because he knows it's not going to be a good outcome, and it isn't, because if Luke didn't go, they would probably still escape, and Luke wouldn't lose his hand, though he wouldn't find out that Vader is his father.
Yeah, that's really all that happens, isn't it? That's the only purpose served by Luke going there isn't to save his friends, but is to have a confrontation with Vader.
Yeah.
With Yoda, the only thing that... Well, there's two things that bring me out of it sometimes with Yoda. One is his ears. It's always bugged me the way his ears move exactly like a silicon ear would move, that little vibration. And then this movement, I know I'm wrong, and I know everyone hates me for this, but I fucking can't stand Muppets. I really can't stand Muppets. And he moves all the time like a Muppet. This is going to be controversial, but I think they should have got almost anyone but a Jim Henson or a Frank Oz to actually do the puppeteering, because they have such a distinctive style. It's the way that you do it. For me, it just wants something just one step away. But that's being very critical. It doesn't ruin anything. I'm just looking for something negative to say.
It's very difficult to say anything negative about this movie. I find. Well, C-3PO, who wasn't much of an annoyance in A New Hope, but he's written to be really annoying to everyone around him because obviously no one listens to him now. They're all just sick of him, and because he's Han Solo in particular has no patience at all. There's no time for C-3PO. Yeah. And he's trying to tell him that something's wrong. He's like, I don't want to hear it.
Never tell me the odds. I think Kirshner's responsible for that largely. He seemed to really latch onto 3PO as, if you haven't noticed, like Kirshner obviously no interest in science fiction, no knowledge about science fiction, would be a typical example of someone who would have probably seen Star Wars and just gone, what the hell is that? And the only way, and when you hear him talk about it, you realise the way he found his way into the movie was was through analogy almost. He identified, he didn't see 3PO as a droid, he saw him as the Falstaff type Shakespearean sort of comic relief character, basically. That was, so he kind of created these analogies for everyone and everything in the movie to avoid having to think about the fact that they were robots and aliens and so on. And he seems to have been very keen on the idea that 3PO is funny and should be the comedy relief, and the comedy should be kind of contained within 3PO rather than spreading around everywhere else.
Well, yeah, I mean, and he is generally funny, C-3PO in this. I don't find him to be, like, the humour to be off-putting or just like forced. Also, again, Harrison's really funny in this as well, especially with the sort of, he does at the beginning he has the comedic elements, but as it goes on, because there's becoming more of an emotional connection between him and Leia, it doesn't really give him windows to do that, and he's put into more difficult situations. But I also love that because R2-D2 is not with them, but he figures out how to repair it at the end and save everyone. And just like he comes in right at the end and just fixes it the entire time.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, without R2 being there, so they didn't need Luke, but they did need R2. They needed him to bring R2.
Yeah. And it's like that's why this film, every character has a role, and everyone has an important role in this movie. Where R2-D2, especially in the prequels. And even the sequels, the new sequels, he's kind of redundant, and he's just there because it's R2-D2. Yeah. You need him there, and that's the thing. What frustrated me and Rob, well, especially Rob, when we're doing the Genre Dome episodes on the prequels, where Lucas is like, "Oh, we need to have R2 in the background there. They've got to animate him and put him in there when he wasn't there before." Now this bit, Rob. Okay, what do you think about this?
What, changing it to match it up? If you want to do it, do it. It doesn't spoil anything for me.
I still don't think. I think it's fine, but I don't how it's shot. I don't think it's shot very well. I don't like how it's composed. I think it looked kind of weird. Looked better composed in Empire, the original cut. But even though it's just this guy wearing this kind of monkey mask eyes, and I think is it voiced by Clive Revill or something like that?
Oh, I think it is. Yeah, I think it might be.
But yeah, it's so weird. But again, it's like what made this film so unique and interesting because it's expanding everything so well with the universe. And you're now seeing Darth Vader. They mentioned the Emperor in the first one. We never saw him, and now we're seeing him. It's like, oh my god, this kind of like monk. This kind of it kind of implies this religious aspect to it all, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a real what's the word? Ascetic. I can't remember.
Aesthetic.
Now. Not aesthetic. No, the like the bloody hell. It describes like a deeply spiritual person who has eschewed all earthly comforts and is just simple, happy, living in a cloak, eating bread. The bare minimum of everything. There's a lot of that going on with the Jedi, which kind of gets ruined in the prequels when you see them all hanging out in these lavish palaces, but still wearing basic desert robes for some reason. Well, Obi-Wan wore it on Tatooine. That means all Jedi have to wear it throughout all of history.
If it was, socially acceptable, everyone just walk around in their pajamas, though, wouldn't they?
It's socially acceptable in my house.
House.
Actually, I'm not even in my house, but I am in my pajamas. This annoys me, actually. Well, it doesn't annoy me. That's wrong. But that's completely the wrong thing. It's an illustration of Lucas, again, maybe being a bit misjudging or misunderstanding things a little bit. He talks a lot in the commentary, which I'd forgotten about completely, about the what's that narrative trope? Is it the mythical animal, the old story of the humble animal at the side of the road that's ignored and put upon, and then someone is finally kind to it. And the animal rewards them with great power because secretly the animal is incredibly powerful. But everyone misjudges it. Everyone that was what Lucas wanted to achieve here with Luke. But he seems to miss the point that Luke doesn't behave like that. Luke behaves like the people who initially do look down on the animal and ignore it. Luke doesn't arrive on Hoth and oh, Yoda, master. He arrives on Hoth and immediately judges him because he's only little and doesn't listen to him, undermines him, and it isn't until he discovers that he's very powerful that he starts to show him any respect, which is the exact opposite of the message of that trope.
Well, he only seems to sort of get things. He starts seeing clearly when he hears the voice of Obi-Wan. And goes, what? And he's taken by surprise. But yeah, Luke is... It's kind of a weird thing. Luke isn't... It's not controversial, I think, to say. I don't think he's quite as likable in this movie. Luke because he's so... Because his character's changed quite a lot from the first Star Wars, where you could sort of see yourself in him, like to be the hero. And when kids want to reenact stuff in the playground, you'd always kind of, most time want to be Luke, the hero. With this one, he's a lot more short-tempered and and just complaining a lot, but it's justified because of the situation he's put in. But it's how he's. Generally, if you saw a creature like that, you wouldn't be that rude to it straight away.
That's exactly my point. What all the Hoth stuff suggests about the way that stories work. If you have a character and you put them in that situation and they behave like that, what you're informing the audience is that they're spoiled or they're grumpy or they're disrespectful or whatever it is. And I don't understand why Luke needs to be presented in that way at that point.
Because it's not because the Luke from Star Wars: A New Hope, he wasn't like that.
No, No, he wasn't disrespectful. He wasn't. Yeah, it's the grateful animal myth. I made a note of it. It's called the grateful animal myth. If anyone's interested and doesn't know what I'm on about, and the point of it is that you're rewarded for not underestimating and insulting a lower form. Basically, that's the point of it. But it's exactly not what Luke does. It's a typical Lucas. Oh, we'll put this in, and he doesn't seem to get that it means the opposite. In effect,
maybe there was something sort of direction-wise, it's kind of lost in translation.
Yeah,
perhaps.
It's probably things I'm not thinking of as well. But look, there are actually different atmospheres in this universe.
Yeah.
Not every planet is one you can just land on and then walk about on without thinking twice about it.
But also inside a giant worm's stomach.
And they have only got like a vague bit of like hospital breathing apparatus.
It's like, do you smell gas?
In fact, aren't there big holes in the side of them?
What of the what? Sorry,
of the masks. It looks like there's big holes in the side of the masks to enable the actors to breathe.
I love C-3PO panicking.
Mynarchs. This bit always cracks me up as well. What's that? Let me just make sure that what I'm doing is really dangerous. Yep, it is.
I do love the outfit of Han Solo in this one. It's a really good costume. I love his trousers with the yellow stripe sort of thing, like down the side of the legs.
Good old Star Trek acting.
Yeah.
Really was just Kirsch shouting, left, now right, now big left.
Say no cave.
Apparently this was meant to be, Lucas was hoping for a big laugh here and never got it as the ship flies out of the mouth.
Well, it's not really a funny moment. It's a dramatic moment of escape, right? Realising you're inside this giant worm's stomach.
A giant worm, which is very obviously just a glove puppet.
Oh, of course. This is like a sperm whale or something.
Sock puppet. Probably is in the Family Guy version. I can't remember now. I wanted to rewatch that Family Guy Empire Strikes Back last night, but then I realised I'm just going to bang on about how hilarious it is all the time. Everything I remember.
Isn't Meg the big worm, isn't she? This is all like, obviously, Elstree, when they built all this set, and the water in there would be like so smelly and stagnant after weeks of filming and obviously not changing it.
Yeah. Lucas got another funny observation that I noticed from the commentary. This scene here, he says that the only reason Yoda is on Luke's back is because there was obviously, with him being a puppet, there's no way to animate him running alongside. Of course, now I'd be able to have a CGI Yoda running alongside, and I was like, oh my god! So this beautiful framing that we're getting here, this incredible, really, like, I remember this being very powerful as a child. The connectivity of it as well. It's just an accident. It's something Lucas wants to do away with and have a CG Yoda, and he'd be bouncing and twirling and somersaulting off all the branches.
It'd be awful, wouldn't it? It'd be awful.
That is what we would have instead of what we just had if Lucas had his own way.
Shia LaBeouf just thrown in with him, swinging past with all these monkeys.
Couple of added Jawas in the background.
Jawas. Who did it?
Maybe a second R2.
Yeah. With jetpacks.
See, he could fly all along. We just didn't have the technology.
This bit as a kid always confused me, because he said that area is where it's strong with the dark side, and he goes in and he sees Vader, and then he cuts his head off, and it reveals his own face. And okay, is this set up by Yoda as a sort of a test?
Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah. Okay. I take this to be his first test, basically, which of course he fails. and then immediately excuses himself from the rest of his training, which I'm not complaining about. And it's kind of a slightly bold move, but yeah, I think that the ultimate what all this is pointing at is the whole Luke could turn to the dark side and could become Vader, isn't it? That's what this is. This is a vision of a future that may or may not be. I didn't like this at all as a kid. It wasn't scary. I just found it really uncomfortable, and I don't know. All the stuff on Dagobah, I think I struggled with as a child. Which and when thinking about it, I would have been like 6 or 7 years old watching it. So it's quite young, maybe, especially back then. That would have been young.
It sort of shows you, come Jedi, that Lucas wanted to lighten things up a bit, didn't he? We had some complaints.
Yeah,
Rob Hill's parents were upset.
They wouldn't have noticed. I think there's the Ewoks maybe are the direct result of this sequence.
Bloody Ewoks. But hey, Ewoks aren't as bad as,
Jar Jar. Compared to Jar Jar, they're fucking shaft, as Simon Pegg says in Spaced. Whatever it is. I've got nothing against the Ewoks.
Let's give Krull a try, and we'll discuss it later. I've never seen Hawk the Slayer. It's supposed to be rubbish, right?
Hawk the Slayer's rubbish. Stop quoting Spaced in a minute. Yeah, no, I don't. It is rubbish. It's proper crap. But it is so similar. The plot, the characters, everything is so similar to this. You wouldn't believe it.
My God. It's been one of those films where kids back in the 80s had to watch a film at Christmas and they bring the big TV out into the hall. Everyone's like, it's going to be Star Wars. Oh, it's Hulk the Slayer.
It was never going to be. It was always going to be Hawk the Slayer or Krull. Those two movies, I really connect because I saw them around the same time, I think, as a child, and was equally disappointed in both of them because they were both like sold as Star Wars, but just were crap.
Bounty hunter scum. Now he's not referred to as Boba Fett in films. He's called a bounty hunter, isn't he? I think there's a deleted scene where Leia refers to him as Boba Fett. But I had that action figure as a kid. He's in the film for like 30 seconds and he becomes a figure.
I still know his name. Oh, I've bloody forgotten though now. Oh, I've got a Kubrick figure of him. There's a little fake. There's like Japanese collectible Lego type figures that were about 15 years ago. They were a big thing. Oh, I can't remember his bloody name. I am going to remember the name. Jason Wingreen. That's the name. The guy who does Boba Fett's voice.
Oh, God, yeah, when they redubbed him.
Yeah. Well, no, the original voice. Because it's not Jeremy Bulloch who does it originally.
So, yeah, but the guy who...
Tamura Morrison, then, yeah.
Jango Fett, because they used his voice in this. And it's, the bad line reads, they're not good. Well, it doesn't sound right at all. It's far better in the original.
Yeah, no, he was... he got screwed on the credit as well. And I don't think he got paid either. He's a guy who doesn't have the best things to say about George Lucas. But he's in Airplane. I knew there was an Airplane link today. There's always an Airplane link somehow in these.
I don't think Terence Stamp has a good word to say about Lucas when he says...
no, he doesn't, does he?
He worked for a lower fee on Phantom Menace, but he said Lucas was renowned for his generous gifts. He's like, oh, okay then. And then he gives him these, like, Star Wars Phantom Menace toys and, like, pencil set or something.
Yeah, I think it was a pen or something you said before.
It was like it was awful.
Yeah.
That still kind of isn't explained well because the Millennium Falcon literally flies over at top speed and suddenly comes to a grinding halt and sticks to the Star Destroyer. I think he would have felt that, when it just slammed into it.
I always think as well, like, there must be like hundreds of windows that it's just. What if someone looks out of one of the windows that it's.
Had a cup of tea, sees Millennium Falcon stuck to it. What is that?
Could at least have given R2 a bit of a spit and polish.
I know. I was always actually quite blown away how they move the rocks because you don't see the wire. It's really well done.
They are obviously hanging, though, aren't they, as opposed to being held by something.
I mean, Yoda falls.
It's exactly what Muppets do.
I know.
Exactly.
He's definitely from like Fraggle Rock, isn't he?
Yes.
You know.
Yeah. The only acceptable time that Muppets have ever been used on screen.
Oh yeah, Fraggle Rock used to scare me as a kid.
See, that's what they should have had him moving about less. I know I'm going to get flamed for this, but here he's totally real and totally convincing to me when he's set like that, like utterly convincing. But then every now and again he moves just like Kermit the Frog. Apparently Kirshner would direct any comments to the puppet rather than to Frank Oz. He'd get so involved in it.
No, because I know Mark was getting frustrated. He had an earpiece, didn't he, to hear the dialogue from Frank Oz. Then it would, because it's a little radio emitter, so it would start picking up like BBC Radio 1.
Yeah.
You know, and but then it will cut off. He wouldn't be able to hear him, so you get frustrated because he can't hear. So he felt like his performance was getting affected by that. So Frank Oz would sort of cheer him up by playing Miss Piggy voice with Yoda as well. You know, as the puppet.
I've got such a strong early memory of seeing Mark Hamill on The Muppet Show, which I must have been able to tolerate as a small child. It's really, really clear, very early memory.
He's wearing the Empire Strikes Back outfit, isn't he? When he goes to Bespin.
I think that piecing it together, I think it must have been during the promotional rounds for this movie.
Yeah. Because the making of this film, they put out on VHS and laser and it's mostly about the effects of the film.
Yeah, I watched it. I love those videos, one for each movie. And I used to regularly rent the first one. You could actually rent it in my local video shop, and I used to rent it all the time. But yeah, the second one, the Empire Strikes Back one, is largely visual, and not even like Star Wars visual effects, just really the history of visual effects.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'll skip forward this bit. I don't need to watch this bit, you know, because Mark Hamill just like talking to you. Then he's in a theatre, he's in a projection room, you know, just getting everywhere to sort of, you know, show you different sides of cinema.
You might be able to fast forward Mark Hamill, Ollie, but I can't. For a bit of respect, if you don't mind.
I needed Star Wars facts, not facts about King Kong. In that making of.
They didn't really have an idea at the time of just how interested people were in the trivia and the background of the making of movies, though, did they? I remember reading someone talking about DVD commentaries, or Laserdisc it might have been, about how originally no one in the industry could see the point, and whoever it was who pioneered it did it like in the face of nothing but criticism. Like, who the hell wants to listen to people talk about a film? But now it's a big deal, isn't it?
It's also interesting with that original making of. It's like, how much footage can they show, or want you to see before you see the movie?
Yes, yeah.
Nowadays, it's very much a select number of clips are used, and then they just deploy them and edit them in different ways through multiple featurettes and trailers and TV spots. Sometimes an odd TV spot from another country, you have different footage. You go, I'll grab that if you're covering a new film. But, you know, back then, what do you show? Yeah,
I was thinking about that last night as well. I actually went so far as to look at the broadcast dates for that making of documentary, and it was about 4 or 5 months after the film came out that it was shown on American TV. So by that point, most of the people who were going to see it in the theatres would have seen it, I guess, but it would have been well before the VHS release or anything like that.
Oh, okay, that's interesting. I thought they might have deployed that before the film came out.
Yeah, I specifically thought about it because during it I thought there's a lot of clips from the movie in this, and of course back then that would have been
Spoilers!
gold dust. You would have been, people were much more protective back then of theatrical footage.
With this film, the script was under lock and key, but particularly its ending, which we'll get to in a bit. But because obviously when they were filming this, it's still called Empire Strikes Back. But come Jedi, they were called Blue Harvest because you go to a location and we want to use this location. Oh, you're Star Wars, we're going to charge you to double the amount. That's what it then became a norm, didn't it? I think after that, the films would change.
Was Jedi the first to do that?
Maybe. It's anyone I could think of had a different working title, to sort of confuse people. Because I know Batman Begins had a different name, and
I think
loads of films had that.
Just everything does now, as far as I can gather. Certainly everything that came through post-production had pretty much, anyway, everything.
Superman Returns was called Red Sun, I think, something like that, So yeah, so you would have had some kind of funny names come through. And go,
yeah, I always remember Road of Thunder was Harry Potter 2, I think it was.
Road of Thunder, but awesome B movie by Albert Pyun. Hope it's got Olivia Gruner in it.
I always remember that one because I've got a tin. I've got an original film tin from it here. Oh, the label's rubbed off now.
It's funny when she deactivates or turns off C-3PO. If you look when it cuts to it, look in the background, you can still see Anthony Daniels breathing. So it's just he's just kind of still moving.
Why is she wearing gloves?
Got to hide the coke finger. Was it Billy D. Williams would, I think when he'd drop off his kids at school, all the kids would be like, "You betrayed Han Solo," things like that.
I always think that Lando Calrissian gets a bit of the shitty end of the stick for all that, because he doesn't betray his friends. He really was faced with no real option, and when it came down to it, he did the right thing. But he had so much more to lose than anyone else as well. He's the king of his own kingdom, and why this guy from his past, that they clearly don't trust each other anyway. He's only just met all the others. He doesn't owe them anything. For him to come good like that, for people he barely knows and sacrifice everything, he's a good guy.
I love how Boba Fett has the smart idea, doesn't he, to hide within the rubbish,
because he's much cleverer than the Jedi. The Sith Lord, what a moron.
I think that's a new shot there, isn't it? That look. That's a new shot, yeah.
I don't remember the twirly Falcon shot either, but I'm probably wrong. This isn't one that I go back and watch as often as the other two, if I'm honest. I'll probably see Jedi once a year, and New Hope probably 2 or 3 times a year, but this a bit less often.
I suppose it's you boil it down to sort of middle act movie.
Yeah. It's just not. It's not as enjoyable, and the second is. It's much better than the second half of Jedi. Obviously, that is probably much better than the first half of Jedi. But the first half of Return of the Jedi, I think, is really underrated and underappreciated.
Oh, I love the opening of Jedi. I love the whole battle on the Jabba's freight ship.
On the skiff, yeah.
The skiff, yeah, incredible. The whole, John Williams' score with the countdown, essentially, where he's looking at each other. R2's ready to fire the lightsaber. Fuck, when I saw it as a kid, I was like, my mind was blown. I was like, this is amazing. The best thing I've ever seen, And I had to get the figure. Yeah, because when Jedi had come out, and then years later, I think maybe it wasn't 1988, because Star Wars stories were still being sold. Even though Star Wars was kind of dead at this point. It's that weird period of time where Star Wars was not popular anymore.
The quiet years, Lucas calls them.
Yeah, when they had the cartoons of droids, which are bloody awful, and the Ewok movies. Ugh. And then, but Tesco's were still selling Star Wars figures. And I had got the Jedi Luke. He's in the black with the green sword he had.
I really associate the availability of Star Wars toys with the wearing on of the 80s, because every year you'd get the new Argos catalogue, and every catalogue there'd be slightly fewer Star Wars toys in it than the one before, and it got down to the point where it was just one page, then it was just half a page, and it was getting really depressing.
I noticed that with Ninja Turtles. We just go, at the end it's just a turtle left to buy.
Yeah, this is I remember these are the shots that, for me anyway, have the most, the greatest problems with matte lines and bad comping in the original version. I like the way they've got the red light outside reflected inside the cockpit, though. I don't think you see that so much in the Harmy's original versions, the despecialized ones.
Because now I think there's other 2 shots prior to that where they've improved, and I think when you sort of come into Bespin,
there's
this stuff here.
There's definitely a few extra shots here.
Yeah, I mean it's not offensive or anything like that. It just gives you a sort of better glimpse of the city before, because you only see little bits of it and you just see it from a distance. So I can understand why Lucas would do that.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but I do as well. I think that the representation of Bespin was always a bit underwhelming for me. You see very little of it flying in, and when you're actually inside the city, it's really underwhelming. Most of it, like the corridors and stuff, it's just a bit, it's a bit nothing. There are incredible, great sets like the cryo chamber, and where Luke has the fight with Vader, and I mean that's amazing. But outside of that, you don't really get much of a sense of the place in the original version.
I think if they had time, Lucas probably wanted to put additional matte painting or something like that, or have a miniature. But it just isn't quite fully realised on the exterior to give you the scope of it all.
I remember seeing it, the special edition in the cinema, and thinking like, that's not what Cloud City looks like. It's Cloud City. It's clouds and stuff, whereas the new CG stuff, it just kind of looks just like Coruscant or any other modern CG Star Wars location. Yeah, this is the scene. Both Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher apparently hadn't had any sleep, and reading between the lines of what Carrie Fisher says, and having read both of her autobiographies, it's fairly safe to say it was more than just Tunisian table cleaner that they were on that night.
You'd be like, give me all the coffee ASAP. Keep me awake.
Am I imagining it, or do they both look wasted? Harrison Ford does look like a bit bleary-eyed. Yeah, they both have a heck of a history. I think Harrison Ford's managed to avoid any like negative connotations and problems and news reports and so on, but he was certainly really into weed, if nothing else. And Carrie Fisher was into most things.
Well, it's the kind of thing, isn't it, with Carrie, and it was like Margot Kidder. They both had issues with drugs and dealing with fame, and sort of, had a lot of problems. And Harrison, it's weed is weed, isn't it?
Maybe it was just weed. Yeah, you just assume if there's that, maybe there's something else.
He may have had a better, understanding of the politics of the industry. You know what I mean? Where you're kind of
totally.
like you can get along with everyone and not face some problems. If you're quite outspoken, then you'd be in a difficult position. Who are you?
With the relentless 3PO comedy relief.
I love it. It's great.
It was a clever way of giving Chewie something to do as well, because he runs the risk, doesn't he, in a movie like in the sequel movie of like, what's the point of him? As do the droids, really. It's a really good job of keeping them all involved and giving them all something to do.
That's the unfortunate thing with Jedi, which we will get to. soon with a commentary. But it's Han Solo doesn't really.
In fact, Han Solo serves no purpose whatsoever for this.
He's kind of like, I don't want Han Solo to die, but it's like Harrison knew, like, well, this is the end of my character now, and Lucas like, nope, you're not killing him off, and then they bring him back. He has nothing to do apart from take down a shield. Go, hey, it's me.
I don't want to be complaining about George Lucas all the time, because he's George Lucas and he made my favourite film ever. He's clearly a genius in certain fields, but that doesn't negate the fact that he's not necessarily that great in others. And yeah, that kind of writing is one of them, because he does the same thing in Raiders of the Lost Ark, doesn't he? Which I know he didn't write, but again, actually, Lawrence Kasdan. With, again, like Harrison Ford's character, the main character, really serves no purpose in the second half of the film. Nothing would happen differently if
I know. I think we always point that out. It's like
I think I've done it in commentary before. Actually.
Yeah, people have pointed out before many years ago that, like, the whole thing with Indy has no real purpose in that film for the final act. If you took him out, it would still have the same consequences. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, shit. But it doesn't matter. It's Indy's there to see what happens.
Yeah, no, it's an observation, not a complaint.
Yeah.
It's a mistake, Luke. Don't do it. Don't do it.
The whole, it's. And did you hear about the original Star Wars films are getting re-released? Well,
yes,
the first one anyway. Yeah, so properly theatrical, like original cuts. Also, I presume Kathleen Kennedy grabbed that print from the BFI, that Technicolor print, which is like mint, and it has the original Star Wars opening crawl without the New Hope bollocks and Chapter 4 crap. It's just Star Wars, right? And that's going to be shown in 2027. I was like, fucking hey.
Yeah, it's 2027, is it?
Yeah, for the 50th.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, we need to make a point of doing something about that.
Well, we have to go see it on the biggest screen possible, completely blitzed out of our heads.
Yeah. That sounds like a plan, yeah. That's exactly how I went to see the special edition when it was released in '97 or whatever it was.
Oh, I was too young to be smoking them tweeds.
It came out. I was at university in Swansea, and it came out during Magic Mushroom season, if I remember correctly.
Magic Mushroom season of all seasons, Oh, there's so much white in there. My eyes would be like, oh, going to give me a migraine. So bright. Yeah, because this scene as well was kind of changed as well, because they did a different take where they give each other a proper snog, and they just sort of simplified it. And because Kirshner said he wanted to introduce more sort of romance into the film, but you couldn't have anything more that was kind of, things had to be just implied. You couldn't have, because Star Wars is very much a sort of.
It's asexual, and it should be.
Yeah.
If anything, I'd have liked more of those scenes, because there's very little time spent just Leia and Han talking to each other, just not trying to solve a crisis or shouting at each other, just like actually speaking to each other.
Yeah, it needed one more scene, didn't it, with them to sort of proper cement their relationship.
Especially with Harrison Ford's style being kind of a little bit dismissive. I'm not sure we could do with a little bit more to point to the fact that Han Solo is in love with Princess Leia, basically.
Yeah. Because there's stuff earlier, on Hoth is gold. It's incredible, like dialogue.
But it's still banter though, rather than conversation. Just that, like they have a couple of exchanges on the Falcon when they're in the asteroid field, and just here. But it's like it's the only time they just kind of like talk to each other like normal people in a normal everyday situation. When they're in shot together and she hasn't got a box to stand on, she really is shorter than him, isn't she?
Oh yeah. Shit, that box would be used for Stallone years later. In particular, Judge Dredd.
And the X-Files, they called it a Jilly box on the X-Files, the box they had for Gillian Anderson whenever she was stood next to, what's his
This
name?
box has been stood on by the greatest in the industry. It's like Carrie Fisher, Stallone, and Michael Keaton, probably. Al Pacino or something. I love this bit. He bounces all the bullets, doesn't he? Or absorbs them or something.
That's great.
It's such a good... so well done. I love the sort of... Because in this one... Yeah, because A New Hope, you don't see the Force where they pull stuff to them, like grab things. Do they?
No.
Because you see Obi-Wan sort of make a sound, doesn't he, with his finger?
Yeah,
He
distracts the... Yeah, no, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't think...
So very early on, we see Luke hanging upside down as a kid, seeing him grab the lightsaber using the Force. I was like, that is cool. And then you see Vader do it just with ease, just to grab his gun. All too easy. He just flicks the switch,
I remember that being it still is a really striking kind of visual, because I think it's the first time, I suppose there's the Hoth base at the beginning, but we only ever really see Imperial characters in Imperial settings, always with the same kind of, the Death Star or a Star Destroyer or something. And it was always seemed really incongruous to me, seeing like Darth Vader in a banquet hall, all white. There's something really striking and powerful about that image.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when the stormtroopers run in behind, in fact, the stormtroopers always kind of look really cool and striking as they're knocking about in Cloud City.
Oh, there's one bit, when they, in a minute after they've tortured Han Solo, and they bring him in on their shoulders, they're carrying him in. When they drop Han Solo, the guy's helmet's literally coming off.
Oh,
he walks out the door.
Yeah.
Should have fixed that, George, shouldn't you? With the 97 edit. But yeah, when they sit down to have dinner, do they actually have any food? What does Vader do? Has he got like a big straw? Just goes, psh. Oh, he uses those wand things like in Red Dwarf. To get the food in their mouth.
I can't remember what they're called now.
I know.
Belugian pongo hoops or something. I can't remember. I've always assumed he eats like RoboCop paste.
Yeah, baby food stuff, I always confused by his torture device. What is it? What does it do? It's just hot? It just fires sparks at you? Or what does it do?
It's exactly the same as or part of it, I should say, is exactly the same as the tool that Chewbacca was using to fix the Millennium Falcon earlier. It spits out sparks. They've just glued that to it. Apparently, Kershaw was saying that originally that was a lot more kind of severe and hardcore, but it was too scary.
I think, kind of just hearing him scream is kind of just as effective, I suppose.
It's going in the commentary that in that great monotone bellow, he kind of goes, and then George said, children don't like to be too scared, so we took those bits out. You need someone to tell him that children are... Yeah.
It's like the bit in the old story of Alien where the people were thrown up in a chest burster, and the guy in Texas said, "How do you deal with that?" The cinema goes, "Oh, we'll just cut that bit out." No more. No one was sick anymore. Oh, I love all the stuff with him and Chewie. It's so
I
good.
do. That's my
when he
favourite
escapes,
bit
he keeps bashing his head. He's like, "What are you doing, you big lump? Look, the helmet. Look at that."
I love when Chew's just like, I've had enough of this. Shut up.
They did a pretty good job of the makeup on Harrison here because he's so pale now.
Or maybe this was shot after the night of Eric as well.
Then he turns up. Oh, you've been in makeup already? No. You look like shit. So you could have had it here, you know what I mean, before Lando comes in, a little moment between her and Solo, because he's going to get put into a...
Yeah, that would have been a great moment because they're both at their most vulnerable. So they could have conceivably have realised something they didn't know before and be in a position to be more likely to want to share it.
I do like Lando's got a cape. I think when you have a bit of power, you should have a cape. I think they should do it now in society. If you're an executive, you've got to have a cape. Oh, that'd be so good, wouldn't it?
More capes, just in general. There should be more
capes in general. Yeah. So if you're a manager at Tesco's or Sainsbury's, you've got to wear a cape.
And they should be able to make you fly. I've always had an association with, because as a child, I always thought that it was the cape that enabled Superman to fly. So I've always had this association between capes and flying.
And you've got to swoosh it when you turn around as well.
Like what's he called from The Boys? Homelander.
Homelander,
He's a master of the cape swish, that guy.
And obviously, the lightsaber's been used only a couple of times so far. Mm-hmm. But when you see the battle coming up shortly, like the effect of the lightsaber is so much more refined and polished, and the sword fighting is just like 10 times better. Because it was like as we famously kind of the bit that obviously clearly Lucas would love to change, but you can't because you can't just change
how can you?
It's obviously there's fan edits where people just kind of CGI stuff, and it is pretty incredible what fans could do, but it is like this kind of very stiff, awkward fencing attack, where this is far more kind of like something like you see out of Conan or something, or like Errol Flynn's type sword fight, isn't it?
It was an old man and a guy with a really bad back doing it, but also it was like that kind of shit was acceptable back then. If you like action, it's come a long way since the 70s.
This is only like 2 years later, and they've like
but I feel like this really started to move on the idea of blade fighting in movies, though. There was probably more influence from Asia as well by this point. More Hong Kong movies getting seen in the West.
I love what Vader's just like, put him in. He's just like, he's in a rush. Suddenly. Yeah, because obviously, famously, this line he was supposed to say, I love you too, wasn't he? And Harrison's like, it doesn't quite sound like something what Han Solo would say. Just result, after numerous takes, Kirshner's just like, just do whatever comes to you. Whatever you're comfortable with. He just says, I know.
Yeah, there's different versions of this, aren't there?
But that could be, the romantic trivia of this, like their side of the story.
There's a book about Empire specifically. I can't remember what it's called now. And the guy,
is it that big book, that famous author that passed away, did all 3 books, didn't he?
Oh God, I can't remember which book I've read it in. To be honest, I can't remember for the life of me. It wasn't that long ago, so it might have been a newer. I don't know, but it was. So this scene was shot. They were running late, and it was being shot over lunch. Actually, Kirshner is quite funny about that. But they couldn't. They weren't happy with the "I love you too" line. No one was happy with that. And so they basically tried everything they could think of, every variation of Carrie Fisher saying "I love you" and Harrison Ford saying something back. And then the traditional story is that Harrison Ford then just improvised "I know," and that was that. But I've read somewhere that a transcript of that. I don't know how you have a transcript of a conversation happening off camera, but apparently there's a transcript of that in which Kirshner and Ford discuss it in advance and then do it.
Okay.
But I suspect stories like that, what usually happens is it probably was improvised, and then they probably did it 15 times more to get the best take. So it was improvised and it wasn't improvised. But Kirshner's really funny in the commentary. He mentions the troubles that they were having in this scene. And we're shooting in Britain. And of course we got the English crew. And the English crew, they just wanted to go to their lunch. Because the English drink beer at lunchtime. And they wanted their beer. And you don't want to get in front of an Englishman when he wants his beer. It's like he's obviously like, it's a bit of needle. He's not entirely joking and laughing about it. He obviously was a bit annoyed.
So the guys at Elstree like their beer, and the guys at Pinewood like their tea. That's kind of what it comes down to. James Cameron's complaints, This bit here, when he got frozen into carbonite, right? I was, as a kid, continuity gaff to me because his hands are tied and suddenly he's like this.
Yeah.
Hands are up.
Yeah.
I was like, no, but it looks better with his hands are up because he can't be his hands tied and frozen. It just look crap.
Yeah.
It's a big slab of chocolate now, isn't he? But like, we haven't mentioned, actually, I mentioned earlier about the Imperial March, but, you know, Williams could have just recycled stuff from Star Wars, but he doesn't. So much more new material. It's an incredible score.
It is. It really is incredible. No movies have better music than these. As a trilogy, you know,
Consistently good. I mean, this and Lord of the Rings probably have some of the best scores for the consistent quality of music throughout.
Yeah, I'd put this a good level or two above Lord of the Rings.
Do you?
Sergio Leone is the only person who makes music for me that can touch these scores.
But also, you got the great Rambo scores as well by Goldsmith.
They're
really good. They're all consistently
really
good.
Yeah,
and they'll get different and, you know, more varied as well. There's just like, you know, Williams, Goldsmiths, you know, Morricone, you know, all incredible. No one can really match them really today. I think most composers today probably can match them, but the studios just want background music, and you end up with crap a lot of the time.
Because like those pumping themes of the 80s, I mean, it's somehow almost every TV show had them as well. Almost every TV show we grew up watching has an amazing theme tune. And how often do you get excited about a TV show's theme tune nowadays?
You don't at all. I can't remember the last TV show had a really good theme tune.
Knight Rider, Airwolf, Street Hawk, The Dukes of Hazzard,
Nightmare.
Murder, She Wrote. They've all got absolutely stonking theme tunes. Indiana Jones, I'd put second only to Star Wars. Yeah, now what?
Where do I go? Could I go through the left door? Right door?
Starting to regret leaving that frog yet?
Also, R2 gets shut out, but there's no way for R2 to enter that door because look, it's a massive big step you had to get over.
I'm surprised Lucas hasn't CG'd him into the background yet.
He's everywhere.
The thing is, we didn't mean for R2 to get locked out. That was an accident. We should have done.
He's got his R2 just flying around with his little jetpack thing that can tackle the clones.
Oh, look at that.
Look at that.
I've got the lobby card of that image on my wall.
Have you? Oh, trying to get lobby cards for the big movies are really expensive.
They're not cheap, are they?
I luckily got Robocop 1 and 2. Actually, 2 is quite easy to get hold of. It's not that expensive. Robocop 1, UK, sort of US lobby cards are quite pricey, but I managed to get a German set, and it's fine. They all look the same. So it's fine. It's all fine. All cheap.
Yeah, I like the foreign ones are interesting because they're generally different format and often different images and so on. I've got a French and a German set of A New Hope.
Oh, nice. I've got the ginormous lobby cards of Time Cop, just massive. They're not like the bigger than the normal ones.
Yeah, but it's normally 10. They're either traditionally they're 10 by 12 or 8 by 10 or 11 by
8 by 10, I think.
Oh, no, 11 by 14. Sorry. God, I used to be really into them when I had a job and a reasonable income.
I was always gutted. I always wanted the Batman Tim Burton lobby cards, and I looked at them on eBay, and I was like, "Oh, they're not very great selection of photos. I think they could have been a bit better than that."
They're really strange. Sometimes they'll just the most random image will be presented as just like a character that only has one line in the movie. I've got a Die Hard one that's just it's just the cop standing there, the Dwayne John, and it's just standing there. There's some really striking images from this movie that you could use to excite people rather than just a plain-looking man. It was the Dukes. It was the Dukes.
See, if you didn't strangle him, you would have saved Han Solo. Now, would they have taken on Boba Fett? I don't think so. I think Boba Fett would have killed them all.
Yeah.
It's too good. So Boba Fett is a Joe Johnston design, isn't it? And he was in the Star Wars Holiday Special as a cartoon, then they brought him into Empire, right? That's the only thing that sort of makes the Star Wars Holiday Special kind of worth it is that cartoon, which is kind of weirdly animated. It's very French, isn't it? But it's interesting.
Plenty
It's
of good stuff in that.
King of sarcasm.
Compared to the prequels. But remember though, he was designed and in A New Hope originally, as well. Before it's the first time the world saw him was in the Holiday Special, but he is in A New Hope, isn't he? In the Jabba scene in the background.
Only for the '97 edit.
But that uses the original footage, doesn't it?
Yeah, but they comp in Boba Fett.
I thought he was in that scene anyway. I swear I've seen Lucas.
Well, he's fooled you with a comp in, mate. He's been comped in.
Oh, that makes so much more sense. I've never quite got that.
Because it's like, in Jedi, the remaster, we have Boba Fett walk past the camera really badly.
In Jabba's palace.
What's he standing on? The perspective and depth of field is fucked,
I've never heard that. I've never heard that said as him being added there. Never consciously, anyway.
All too easy. I love that he flicks the switch. I love he does the Superman leap out of the thing. Because you only see it happen once. Like, doesn't Obi-Wan do it in Phantom Menace? But he's not as fast. He sort of does the massive leap up onto the platform to get to Darth Maul.
Yeah.
We get some with the gas. Oh, this whole sequence is so good.
It really is, isn't it? It's just visually brilliant and really quite bold visually as well, to light the characters as little as this, especially when one of them's just a black mass.
Brilliant photography.
I'd love to see this, to see an original print of this projected, to see how much more detail there is in all these plaques.
Because at the early showings of Empire were all 70mm with the 6-track Dolby, and then they'd run out to 35mm after a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So you could only see Empire in the select theatres who had 70mm presentation. Oh, fuck me, that would have been impressive.
Yeah.
Just for the sound alone back in those days, because the Dolby stereo with 6-track was something to be, something to hear, something really blow your mind. Because most cinemas were flea pits and just full of just mono sound speakers, So it would have been a huge leap to go to like the West End of London, or somewhere in LA, like a Chinese theatre,
Grauman's, that'd have been
Hollywood Boulevard sort of area. I love this bit when they filmed this sequence behind the scenes, just guys off camera just throwing boxes at Mark Hamill.
It doesn't look quite right, does it, in places, that sequence?
Because when he's getting attacked, he's kind of... Because he's full of energy here, but when he starts getting hit, he's like...
He's quite slow.
He feels like he's running out of energy now. He's got really, really weak. But
I've never interpreted it as acting slow. As acting tired. It's more just... I've just always been a bit confused as to why he's so slow here.
There's some great matte paintings on the back of Harrison Ellen Shaw. Look at that. That's amazing.
A lot of work went into that.
Yeah.
God, you could drive yourself mad painting something like that.
I think doing stop motion would drive you loopy.
Oh God, you've got to have a certain...
Phil Tippett must have the most patience of anyone, in the world. Obviously, the guys behind Aardman and Wallace and Gromit. God, is it Nick Park?
Nick Park, yeah.
Yeah, because I couldn't have the patience to do any of that.
No. And apparently this was by far the most challenging work that Tippett had to do on Star Wars as well, was the stop motion for this. I'm assuming he means the Tauntauns? The Tauntaun, I don't...
Well, I know he said the ATST was tough.
Oh, of course, yeah.
And Jedi, when it's kind of falling over on the logs. It took a month to do 4 seconds or something because it was so difficult. But they were introducing go motion at that point, which is not, again, that's a really complicated process, really mathematical sort of trying to make it work. That became the next stage on from stop motion, wasn't it? Where you had a sort of motion blur to the effects, made it more believable.
No, he's in the commentary for this anyway. He says that this was the most challenging.
Not
that he did.
surprised.
But yeah, I suppose you've got the AT-ATs and the ATSTs, or a couple of ATSTs in that early Hoth sequence, aren't there? Oh, actually, I think he might have been talking about the snow as well, because they the fake snow they were using was like an incredibly fine powder that was really difficult to deal with. Obviously, if you breathe out in the wrong place, you've ruined a shot.
Oh, yeah. Because they had to come out like through these little hatches, didn't they? Move it, then go back down.
Yeah.
Photograph it, back out again. God, what a chore. He's thoughtless, man. He's so good.
I want a Chewie origin story spin-off movie, if we're going to have any, with no dialogue whatsoever.
It'll be subtitled. It had to be subtitled, right?
There's no subtitles in the holiday special. The first 10 minutes of that, it's just...
It'd be Life Day, wouldn't it? It's all about Life Day.
Yeah.
Which they would do a nod to in Mandalorian, wouldn't they? They'd mention Life Day.
Really?
So, yeah, just to sort of probably annoy Lucas. You know?
I don't think the holiday special's quite as bad as people make out.
Well, you watch it completely pissed, it's fine. But if you're sober, it's quite torturous.
I don't think I've ever tried it sober.
5 minutes in, give me a drink. I love that he goes, yeah, just cuts the thing off and then goes through his hand. Look at that shot. I mean,
Is that the same matte painting or a different one, do you think?
Same matte painting, yeah, I think so. It's angled differently. Because obviously this was supposed to, like, what they said but didn't record was like Obi-Wan killed your father, and Mark does his ugly sad face, you know.
No.
it's a funny expression he pulls, isn't it?
And only four at the time of filming. Only 4 people in the world knew. Only Lucas, Kirshner, Kasdan, and Hamill. Even James Earl Jones didn't know until he came to ADR the line.
Yeah, and he thought, no, this is not it. They're going to do a twist that it's not his father. You know, he was like really surprised, wasn't he? What annoys me with the 97 version, which I've now taken out, was when Luke falls, they dub in the sound of the Emperor going, falling down in Jedi into the pit where Vader throws him, right? There's the scream.
Why?
No idea. You hear it in a sound mix. It's not in this one. It's the 97 one. They throw in this kind of wailing sound as he falls down.
Just because something does rhyme doesn't mean it should.
It's like someone's accidentally pressed copy paste by accident in the sound mix and forgot, then they didn't QC it and they just throw it out in the cinema and going, oh yeah, it sounds like the Emperor when he...
That's impossible.
I always love it in The Simpsons where Homer walks out of The Empire Strikes Back. Whoa, what an ending. Who would have thought Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father? And he's like, hey, thanks a lot. Like in the queue.
You imagine like getting away with something like that now like obviously social media would have spread it to everyone, but also just the slow rollout of movies in the old days, and the fact that it would often be months before people in other countries and certainly people in rural areas ever saw the movie.
Wasn't there a thing about because David Prowse and Lucas falling out because Prowse had maybe revealed that he was was Luke's father in the press or something, and Lucas was really annoyed?
I can't remember now for the life of me how it started.
About that. That really annoyed Lucas, and he holds.
But he
grudges,
never forgave him, I believe.
No. Oh, there was a documentary, wasn't there, like about Prowse and how he, obviously, how he was treated by Lucas and stuff, and and then the fans or something, this documentary shot the bit at the end of Jedi with Prowse in the makeup as he takes the helmet off. They did inserts, but then legally they couldn't show it. It's like, oh right, so the documentary doesn't show you that. So it's like, okay.
Yeah, whatever it was he did, it obviously really upset Lucas because he was blackballed from all events and functions forevermore, wasn't he? And
Yeah.
You couldn't, if you had him appearing at your convention, then you couldn't get Lucas's sign off on anything.
But he would be at other events I've been to where he was there, and Kenny Baker and who else? Warwick Davis, maybe.
I mean, like those people, they're probably like contracted individually to appear. But if you actually want an official Star Wars zone or something, or Lucas himself, then you had to give Dave Prowse the boot.
Now here coming up, you see Darth Vader walk towards camera, and he goes, "Prepare my shuttle for arrival," which they dub in a new line. And I'm not sure, maybe by James L. Jones. It sounds a bit different, but in the original cut, he just says, "Prepare my shuttle," and that's it. And then they throw in a shot of Vader. Here you go, coming up.
Oh, yeah.
So this bit's added when he walks towards his little ship, and
Yeah.
then he lands on the Star Destroyer. But it's literally a shot from Return of the Jedi, where the opening where he gets off and he meets the Admiral or the other guy in charge of the Death Star.
Really?
Because you can see him just waiting there. I'm like, that is sloppy.
I remember there being controversy about the added line and shot, but I hadn't heard that it was literally lifted from Jedi.
So you see it in a sec when he gets on the... Because they've thrown in the insert shot of the flying towards the Star Destroyer, Super Star Destroyer. That's not in the film, original one, I don't think.
This always makes me think, turn the ship around, take it back to Bespin. So one of those stupid little moments from the Family Guy thing.
Oh, yeah.
That TIE fighter looked incredibly CG just then.
I think it's actually in the original cut, that shot. Yeah, it's just been improved, the travelling mats. And the grading's different, very different.
They could have done with changing the grading on, the light reflected onto the Falcon. It's always stood out to me because it's like everything else in the shot is red because of the red light, either the red sky or the red... That light, the Falcon there looked red, but as it flies away initially, it looks like it's bathed in neutral light rather than red light.
So look at all that, the CG stuff they're thrown in, where he's landed. Look, watch, okay, he walks out, and it's a shot from Jedi. And if you look to the far right, you will see the guy who would, will double our efforts,
Oh my God! Well, to be fair, I've probably only seen this special edition a couple of times, but...
Didn't need to insert that shot.
No, so what's that? So there's just nothing there in the original, is it? You don't see the Tidarian shuttle, do you? In the
No. He just, I think, you may see it leave the planet, but it's putting those extra shots in. It slows down the pace of them escaping.
Yeah. And I really want to say that the Tidarian shuttle shouldn't be in this film at all. But it's only introduced in Jedi.
Yeah, I think you're right. Actually, I think there's all those shots of that shuttle are inserted new. Yeah, yes, because the behind the scenes of the films I watched earlier today, they're talking about that little shuttle for Jedi, because you see it kind of like a different version of it in A New Hope, where Luke's got it in his hand.
Yeah, well, that's
It's a bit like that Y-wing sort of design.
Yeah, I think it's the same wing layout, but I think that's meant to be the one of the T-38s or whatever they're called.
Yeah, he'd shoot womp rats or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a toy of a womp rat killing vehicle. Yeah, that was one of my favourite. There was a very clear hierarchy with the toys when it was the Falcon, then the AT-AT, and then that Tidarian shuttle.
I had that. Yeah, it was a great little toy. I was lucky I found that at a car boot sale in the early 90s. I was like, I'm having that.
It might have been mine.
I love how like Lando's very much same attitude of Han Solo. They told me they fixed it. It's not my fault. It's like it's exactly what Han Solo would do, you know. Luke.
You're so right about the pacing being altered by that, because the pacing of this sequence and the editing in general is just superb. And ever since that bit, I feel like I've been on my back foot somehow.
See, start throwing stuff into an escape sequence. That's kind of a bit slow, like especially Vader walking off that shuttle. You know, it's just like no. Love this bit. Fly off. I love when, like, because Vader's been told that the hyperdrive's been disabled, and then they shoot off, and then he looks at the Admiral and is like,
Yeah.
He's like, oh God, I'm gonna die, and he just goes.
He just like walks off, doesn't he?
He's like, oh fuck it. Yeah, swoosh the cape, spin it around.
Oh shit.
He wasn't me. I feel like I was misinformed. You know? But also, we didn't mention earlier actually, because they introduce these other ships, don't they, for the Rebel Alliance that one's popped up earlier on when they were escaping from Hoth. This one's like it's a medical frigate, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Though I don't remember any of these being toy. Oh, the
on the left was
Woodlouse one was one, wasn't it? I didn't know anyone who had it.
Oh, I had it. Yeah, you had to. It's like it's a bit bland. Just take the lid off and just put figures in it, and that was it, really. But the Woodlouse. This was always mind blowing. I think this could be real technology when you see his hand and you see when he moves his fingers, the metal bits move at the same time, and it's so well done how it's designed and engineered.
Lando's put Han's clothes on. That is really funny. That is it's a genuinely weird moment in the Family Guy thing when that is observed, because you do go, oh yeah, I've been watching this film all my life. Why has Lando just got dressed up in Han Solo cosplay?
And they're going straight to what was the planet again in Jedi? Oh, it's Tatooine.
It's Tatooine where Jabba is.
Yeah. What's the time? You don't know the time frame between Empire.
I don't think it's ever been nailed down. I know there are theories. I might be wrong, but
maybe a couple of weeks. No, it's got to be more than that.
The only problem is Luke's entire Jedi training has to take place between now and the beginning of Return of the Jedi, because he essentially hasn't really done anything yet, and he's failed his only test, and that's that. But then in Return of the Jedi, he is a Jedi. So whatever happens, there needs to be time for that.
He's got his black glove, and because in the deleted scene you see him kind of put the crystal in the lightsaber to give him the green one, don't you?
Oh, I don't know.
Because he's in like a cave in
Jedi.
He constructs a lightsaber in Jedi.
A deleted scene from Jedi in which he constructs a lightsaber. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh, that's well cool.
Well, maybe I haven't. I've forgotten. These things do happen.
This is Rob, you know. Well, man, I mean that commentary flew by, man.
Yeah, I mean that's
2 hours.
2 hours, 10 minutes or something. 2 hours, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I watched this the other day, and I had a blast again watching it. You know, it's such a great sequel. Really good film. I know. There's hardly anything I can fault about this movie. There's little nitpicks as we brought up along the way, but I mean that's kind of, who gives a fuck? It's still a masterpiece.
You're gonna pick any hole there to be picked is going to get picked in a commentary at the end of the day, because you need stuff to talk about, don't you? But there's no taking away from the fact that this is an incredible film, and it both in its own right and for what it represents and for how bold it is.
Oh yeah, extremely daring with its kind of creative choices and going with this in this direction to not have a proper ending.
And having all these names here cost Lucas, was it 250 grand, I think he said,
Yes.
in fines for the Directors Guild of America, because he was voice of Emperor Clive Revel.
Here we go. I got it right. I remembered. And it's not the voice of Clive Revel because his voice is not in it.
Mm.
They didn't update the credits, did they?
That's that funny.
It is weird, isn't it? But yeah, because Kushner got fired. Not fired, sorry, fined. And Lucas paid for all of it and then just like left the guild. And then that kind of messes up because you don't... What was it? You can't write on certain films that are part of the guild.
Yeah,
as well,
exactly.
so,
and you can't hire, but if you're,
because he couldn't hire Spielberg to do Jedi.
Yeah, that's how Spielberg got out of it.
Yeah, it's like, thank God. I don't want that pressure. But dude, if Spielberg had directed Jedi, it would have been something truly spectacular. And we still get a great sequel with Jedi. But man, the thought of like what he could have, what could have been. It's kind of interesting with the font in credits. Some of it's in like bigger font size, and some a bit smaller. Someone's a bit more important. You're going to get bigger font.
It's the heads of departments. I noticed John Morlow and Ben Burt, and the people who actually matter, the people who couldn't be replaced. Not that the other people don't matter, but at the end of the day, most of the names you see in an end roller, they could be replaced with someone else, and no one would ever know. I say that as someone whose name is in a fair few end rollers without me ever having really contributed much to a movie, if I'm honest. Yeah, Dennis Muren. Oh, that was a thoroughly pleasant way to spend an afternoon.
Are you going to be rewatching Star Wars again this Christmas?
Yeah, always. At some point, I'll be incredibly drunk on the sofa at the end of a day when everyone else has gone to bed, and Star Wars is always the one that's going to get put on. Although there's a chance I might be getting a 4K Blu-ray player for Christmas.
Oh.
In which case, I'll be watching 2001 on 4K Blu-ray.
Oh, it does. It is stunning, mate, in 4K. It's bloody gorgeous. There you go, the special edition credits. Rick McCallum. Oh, dear, Rick. Oh, Rick. The pushover producer.
If it's any consolation, I did scare the life out of him when I door-stopped him on the street once.
What did you do?
I came up... I've told you this before, I think.
I know you scared Lucas,
the time I met Luke... Well, they were together.
Oh, okay.
I think it scared both of them, because I kind of came up behind them, and I'm very tall. And, yeah... I think Lucas shook my hand out of fear.
But Lucas should be used to big giants, right? Yeah, you could have been another Peter Mayhew, Rob. You could have been Preston and put into another Star Wars film as a Wookiee.
I'm not quite that tall. I'm more Dave Prowse than Peter Mayhew. I'm exactly the same height as I've forgotten his name. There we go. I've had 2 hours of trying to remember things, and my brain now needs a rest. Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum. Oh, my cheeks hurt. Oh. So this is still credited for 1997. So even though it's like another tweaked version of Star Wars, and it's still got the phone THX. Hello, THX. I've got a problem. I'm going deaf. I should put some amplifiers on your ears. Well, everyone, that's the end of the commentary. Hope you enjoyed it. Me and Rob will be back with Return of the Jedi very soon. So take care and goodbye.
And have a good Christmas.
Yeah.